Did you ever notice how much sibling rivalry exists in the Bible? It starts almost right in the beginning with that first set of siblings, Cain and Abel. Before we're through Genesis, you find conflict between Abraham's sons, Isaac and Ishmael, between Isaac's sons, Jacob and Esau, and between Jacob's 11 sons and their brother Joseph, and also between Jacob's 2 wives, who are sisters, Rachel and Leah. With each new set of siblings, there's new rivalry born. And the prevalence of these stories in the Bible has me convinced that we're supposed to be learning something here. And while each one has their specific nuances, I'd like to crack open a sibling saga that's not so well known. It actually focuses on a guy you maybe have never even heard of before. His name is Eliab, but it also involves a towering figure in Israel, Eliab's little brother, David. Our story begins in 1 Samuel 16, where Saul has struck out as Israel's first king, and God has found the one who is to step up next. God assigns his prophet Samuel to anoint this future king in verse 1, saying, "Go fill your horn with oil and be off on your way, because I am sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem. I have chosen one of his sons to be king." And it's interesting that God doesn't specify which of Jesse's sons has caught his eye, and this sets up the drama which is about to unfold. So Samuel ventures off to Bethlehem, where he encounters Jesse's sons. Verse 6 continues, "Samuel saw Eliab and thought, 'Surely the Lord's anointed stands here before the Lord.'" Now Eliab is mentioned first because he's the eldest son. And because he's the firstborn, his rightful place is before and above any of his younger brothers. The Israelites of the Bible, like many cultures in their time, practice primogeniture, which is the right of the firstborn son by law or by custom to privileges and status over his siblings. This idea is central to how the Israelite society operates. Eliab would have been entitled and expected to assume the headship of Jesse's family upon Jesse's death. He would become the patriarch, presiding with full authority over the family, and he would also receive a double portion of all inherited possessions. Since the beginning of Eliab's life, he was most likely uniquely celebrated and specially reared. He is the firstborn son, and as such, he is the primary means by which Jesse's name and his legacy will continue. The only place he has ever known or occupied is square in the center of Jesse's sight, as he pours into him all the values and the training of what it is to be the patriarch of the clan of Jesse. And all of this lived experience has most likely shaped Eliab. He carries himself as a leader, as the front runner that he is, as he is presented to Samuel. And Samuel's impressed upon first meeting him. "Surely the Lord's anointed stands here before the Lord." Samuel says, "Surely this is the guy." But the Lord said to Samuel, "Do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him." The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And then Jesse called in Abinadab, the second oldest, and he had him pass in front of Samuel. Now that's just a simple sentence in our text, but think of what most likely happens within Eliab as it transpires. Eliab is considered, he's assessed, and then he's publicly rejected. I wonder if this has ever happened to Eliab before. Remember that this is an honor and a shame culture where what an individual holds most dear in his life is his personal and his family honor. Rejection brings shame, which is devastating, especially in this public context. Eliab is understandably devastated. He's been passed over. His life up to this point has been about distinction and elevation and the responsibility to carry and further his family honor. And he, for reasons completely unknown to him, has just been publicly shamed by Israel's most revered prophet. What's running through his mind as his younger brother Abinadab straightens his posture before Samuel? How would you be reacting if you were Eliab? But Samuel says, "The Lord has not chosen this one either." Jesse then had Shammai pass by, but Samuel said, "Nor has the Lord chosen this one." Jesse had 7 of his sons pass before Samuel, but Samuel said to him, The Lord has not chosen these. So he asked Jesse, are these all the sons that you have? Now I'm guessing at this point that these men are completely confused. The prophet has had 7 fine choices. Everyone knows that 7 signals completeness. Think the number of days in a week. In the Bible, when you get to the end of a cycle of 7, you're done. Whatever is 8th is extraneous. It's an afterthought. Yet every once in a while, it might just signal the start of a brand new and unexpected cycle. There is still the youngest, Jesse answered. He's tending the sheep. And Samuel said, send for him. We will not sit down until he arrives. And so the whole company is made to wait for the youngest, the one farthest away from the center of family power and authority. I ask, when have all of the older ones ever had to make way for the youngest? And so he sent for him and had him brought in, and he was glowing with health and had a fine appearance and handsome features. Then the Lord said, rise and anoint him. This is the one. So Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the presence of his brothers. And from that day on, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David. And Samuel then went to Ramah. What the heck just happened here? The family structure, with its trusted and time-honored power dynamic, has just been set on its head. And after this day, the last shall be first, and the prophet, with no further instruction, heads home. I'm thinking that now this family has a problem on its hands. Can you just see it? In the space of one crucial event, everyone's gaze, which has rested on Jesse first and on Eliab next, suddenly shifts to the 8th son, the kid with the sheep, the afterthought. And it isn't just oil that flows on David. Honor flows. Honor that belonged to sons 7, 6, 5, and 4. Honor that belonged to Shammai and Abinadab rushes from them and on to David. And most of all, Eliab, the number 1 son, who feels the transfer most acutely because he's the one who loses the most. Eliab must be thinking, what a travesty! What has this boy done leading his few sheep around in the hills to prove himself? And then those very painful questions sit there too. What do I lack? Why not me? And then the Bible goes silent on the developing family drama for quite a while. We don't know how David carried his new divine appointment. If he follows Joseph's example from Genesis, he might wear it as a colorful garment and tell his brothers stories of how they'll one day bow down to him. But that would be really, really stupid. That might get you sold off to some wandering Ishmaelites, or worse. How much does David understand of what's just happened to him? As the months pass and King Saul continues to rule as before, how much do things change for David? Other than this one prophetic visit, for now, he's still the shepherd boy. Only now he has to carry expectation and skepticism and others' jealousy and that terribly damaging question that's on everyone's mind, why you? I suspect that David's asking the same thing. Why me? Who am I? The only thing that we know from the text at this point is that God was seeking out a man after his own heart. His outward appearance didn't matter, though it's interesting that we're told David's pretty handsome. I mean, come on, have you seen that statue in Florence? Anyway, his family status doesn't matter either, and his leadership experience doesn't factor in. What could it be that God has found in David? What does God need most from his future king? I wonder if Psalm 72 can shed some light. Listen to these words that came to be prayed over the kings of Israel. Endow the king with your justice, O God, the royal son with your righteousness. He will judge your people in righteousness, your afflicted ones with justice. The mountains will bring prosperity to the people, and the hills the fruit of righteousness. He will defend the afflicted among the people and save the children of the needy. He will crush the oppressor. It seems to me that God is most looking for a man who will do justice, act rightly, defend the weak, and take action against the harmful. He doesn't seek prosperity first. First, he seeks justice and righteousness. Do you see how prosperity will then follow as a result of his right actions? I love that line, he will save the children of the needy, not just the needy, but the ones who are dependent upon the needy, the doubly needy. He will be aware of them and save them. Who takes notice of these kinds of invisible people? Perhaps it's the one who himself has spent his formative years in last place. What if the heart of God is most inclined towards these low ones, and God is most seeking a king who will, against all expectation and convention, consider the lowly first? Oh, Eliab, oldest brother of David, you're a fine man. You're gifted and qualified for many things, but you've never been at the bottom, looking up, and that might be the void in your packed and polished resume. Is there any way for you to see that God might be working a very unconventional plan, where in his kingdom, the king rules by serving those at the bottom? Would you ever be able to swap places with the eighth in line and serve him to discover the heart of God? Join us next time to find out. So thanks for coming along on this short journey into the Bible text. I hope you've noticed something new in the landscape, or maybe even a fresh way to view territory that you've covered many times before. Whatever the case, it's good to have you along for the trip. You never know what we might discover as we crack open this fascinating text together.